Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to see you all. Glad I didn't end up completely in Mills County all the way. Was able to make it. Since we got a couple new faces or faces that haven't been here in a while, why don't we just go around, say your names real quick and what jurisdiction you're from. So I'm Rachel Getch and I'm not a staff member.
I'm Lexi Famoro and I'm from Mapa.
John Rasmussen with Harrison County.
Tony Smith, Supervisor, Harrison County.
Susan Miller, Pot County.
Jacob Farrell, Mills County.
Adam Rain, Pot County. Chris Frederickson, Shelby County.
Charlie Parker, Shelby County.
Jefferson Gonchas, Cedar Harlan.
Angie Wakequist, City of Glenwood.
Jerry Clark, City of Glenwood.
Richard Crouch, Mills County. Brian Shea, Pottawattamie County.
Lindsay Button, Mappa. I'm just hiding doing AV.
And then anyone on the Zoom? Carlos, I don't know.
Carlos Mappa.
All right.
Hi, I'm Jerry Doyle. I'm with FTA. I'm sorry, my camera is not working this morning.
No worries. Thanks for joining us.
Who was that?
Jerry Doyle.
Okay. Great. All right. Go ahead.
Ready? Okay. Have any additions or corrections to the agenda? If not, do I have a motion to approve the agenda? So moved. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, everybody read the minutes? I have a motion to approve the minutes. I have a motion by Jarvis. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Fiscal year 26 Transportation Improvement Program, TIP amendments.
Great. So as some of you might be familiar, we've been working on putting a couple projects through TIP amendments. This is the only one that was able to make it through the first amendment that we're going to hopefully be passing through today, and it's an Iowa DOT bridge overlay project. Just go into that real quick. So this is one, it's in northern Pottawattamie County. The only reason that we're amending it is that it was already let in 2025. We had initially rolled it over to 26 because we weren't sure if it was going to make the letting date or not. It did, and so it just doesn't need to be in the FY26 TIP any longer, and so we're amending it out. Yeah, that's it. It's not any regional funding, it's just Iowa DOT. So we'll go ahead. Can I get a motion? For technical.
See if we have any questions.
Oh, yes, my apology. Any questions?
Speak into the microphone more.
Yeah, I can't hear you either.
Sorry, any questions? That better? All right.
Isn't that?
Yeah, you were okay with it?
Yeah, that's all just DOT, right? There's no.
Correct. Yeah, it doesn't affect regional funding at all. It's just one of the projects that happens to be in RPA-18 that Iowa DOT is administering.
Feels weird to make a motion for it when it's none of our projects, but I'll make the motion to move it.
Jacob?
Motion, do I have a second?
I'll second. It's technical, is it?
Got a second, John? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
We do the same for. Susan?
Got a second?
Jervis? All right.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right. So we're going to go ahead into the FY27 call for projects. We're going to focus on the TA set aside program initially, and then we'll get into STBG, which is we're going to do something a little bit different with that for this round. So for the TA set aside program, some of you might be familiar, this is primarily just all pedestrian and bicycle improvements or facilities, transportation alternatives. There's a few different things that fall under this program. We'll be opening this October 10th, so on Friday, and it will be closing January 30th. So it's a fairly long call for projects opening for you guys to be able to put projects together and submit applications. And that will be followed by the regular map up comment period, and as well as project selection at the March meeting. At the February RPA meeting, we'll go over what projects and the applications that have been received. And then we'll do project selection then in March. So background on the program, it is 80-20. And this is one that we regionally administer. So it's very important that they're significant either locally or to the RPA-18 region. We currently have about 840,000 available for programming through 2030. Now, just to be clear, that's not all available immediately. It's just within those years, that's the total amount available with considering the estimated apportionments. These are the projects we currently have programmed within the TIP. They're only within FY26, so the current TIP, there aren't any programmed further out than that, which is why we've kind of built up a balance of TAP funds. As you might recall, we didn't receive any last year for applications when we opened up this call for projects. And so we just have a bit of a balance this time around. Currently have that Pottawattamie County project in there. That's a multi-use trail. They're actually working on putting in several other applications to complete a longer segment. So that's been really exciting. We're working with some of their consultants and the conservation board on that. Logan has a Safe Routes to School project that they've been working really hard on. That should be going through this year. And then Glenwood has 2 projects that will likely be amending, hopefully in November, but sooner, hopefully rather than later. We'll just be adjusting those projects' scope and costs. And like I said, there aren't any projects programmed further out than this year. Some of these projects may end up rolling over if needed, but currently they're all in FY26. Right. And just to go over a little bit of project sponsors, there's a whole list of them. If you are in a city, a county government, for example, the conservation boards, there are some trail boards that have been reconvening recently. Those would all be allowable project sponsors. They would just need RCs to be able to help administer those projects. And of course, MAPA is always available to help with any technical assistance needed. Eligible projects, like I was mentioning before, this is primarily for pedestrians, bicyclists, I always mispronounce that, and other non-motorized forms of transportation, hence the transportation alternatives. There are some specific uses that are kind of out of that, including some historical preservation, environmental mitigation, archaeological vegetation work. So there are some other use cases, but typically what we've historically used this program for has been those non-motorized modes of transportation. All right. So I will, if there's no questions, any questions about the TASA call for projects or the program itself?
Can you put the timeline back up again?
For sure.
I'll move to call for TAP projects.
First from
Motion
John.
John on the technical. Second on the technical.
Second.
Chris. All right.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. A motion by the policy committee.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Perfect. We'll be having an informational meeting at the November meeting for this call for projects. So in that, we'll be going over specific application details, what's required, go over any questions you guys might have after you have a chance to take a look at the program and think about any projects that you might be submitting. I do know Pottawattamie County, the Conservation Board, they have expressed interest in submitting an application. So I'm hopeful we're going to have one from them. So we just want to make sure we're working around any technical assistance that's needed. If you do want to meet one-on-one with MAPA staff, we're available to answer any questions you have. All right. So I'll go into the STBG. So this is a little bit different than normal. This is not a call for projects. We're going to be doing a call for amendments. So this is going to be only accepting amendments for existing projects instead of new project applications. This is largely due to the fact that we've been mostly programmed out for STBG for a while now. You might remember last year we didn't open excuse me, a call for projects for STBG at all. We currently do have a bit of a balance, but it was expressed previously that there was a desire to kind of build up that balance. And then also we've noticed that there's also to help with covering larger projects, but then at the other side, there have been a lot of cost increases. We're dealing with inflation, and a lot of the current STBG projects that have been programmed, we've got about 14 million currently programmed through 29. Those projects aren't, those project costs are no longer accurate. You're not actually able to complete those projects for the costs that are currently in the tip and for the awards that they currently have. And so we're trying to make sure we kind of do catch up, because it's been a couple years since we've made any changes at all to STBG and done a call. And so most of these are older applications to begin with. So again, we're trying to do a little bit of catch up with making sure costs are accurate. So this is specifically for programs that are already within the current FY26 tip. However, if they are FY26 projects, we will not be able to accept amendments for those projects. This is due to a sort of a hiccup with Iowa DOT, the way they do their apportionments. So we get STBG from the state, and they zero out every year. So even though they say, hey, we technically are giving you this much money, if you haven't used it within that year, we're not taking it back, but we're going to give it to someone else for now. And then on the next year, you're kind of getting it back. So they like to zero out every year, which is why it makes it really hard to do amendments, especially for really larger projects within the current FY, because to them, they're already zeroed out. So that's just the caveat there. So these will all need to be projects not within, currently programmed within FY26.
And Rachel, can I ask a question? This is the voice in the sky. What constitutes an amendment? Could you review what constitutes an amendment for us?
That's a great question. I almost forgot about that. Let's see, did I even put that in here? I was staring at amendment material all weekend for the LRTP, and then I totally forgot to put it in here. So amendments for the tip are typically, you're talking about if they're related to costs. So there's amendments and there's administrative modifications. If the project is more than 2 million or more than 30% of the original project cost that you're adjusting for, that's considered an amendment. If it's less than that, it's considered an administrative modification, and there's a lot. It doesn't have to go through public comment. It doesn't necessarily have to have the same approvals, although it will still go through the board, and we will still send that information to Iowa DOT. But it's a little less prohibitive. So that's also an option. It doesn't technically have to be a full amendment. It can be an administrative modification. That's a good point. Thank you for putting that up.
We want specifics on what the thresholds are for amendments.
2 million and 30%, right?
So yeah, so if it's an increase and project cost, if it increases by more than 30%, we're $2 million. Schedule change, so in addition or deletion of a federally funded project at the tip, which is why we had that earlier one that we had to comment out. And then scope change. So if there's a change in the project termini, alignment, number of through lanes, type of work, or the increase of roadway capacity. So those three are kind of the cutoff points that make the determination between an admin mod versus an amendment.
Yeah, if they're just small changes, like you need to, add some small safety feature and it's under that threshold, that typically would probably be considered an administrative modification. But if it's a larger, like Lindsay was saying, if it's a larger scope change, or you're changing the termini at all, or if it's turning into a completely different project, kind of like we've had with the Glenwood project, that the termini on that and the scope on that has totally changed. And so that has become an amendment. a need for amendment instead of an administrative modification. But yeah, no, thank you, Lindsay.
And so as a refresher, just to put perspective into this, right now we have in fiscal year 2027, 3 projects. This would be Pottawattamie on Magnolia Road, L52 project for $325,000. Then we also have Shelby County on F32 for almost 1.1 million. Then Harrison County has one on L20 from Missouri Valley north 4.3 miles to L23. These are all, I assume, resurfacing projects in fiscal year 23. So basically, if any of those need to change, this would be a good appropriate time to take it through so that we could make an amendment change. If you need to change the year of letting, we could work on that. Basically, we're trying to work with you to accommodate some of the differences that we've been seeing in terms of construction costs, in terms of flexibility. So those are the 3 that we have. Then going further out, we have in 28 for 1.1 million about a Harrison County project on F20 to F20L. This is crossing Willow Creek Bridge. And then Mills County for $975,000 on M16. It's a 6-mile project through Hastings to Paddock. Then the big kicker is the Pottawattamie on L34, programmed in fiscal year 29 for about $2.3 million. And that is what we have. And after the meeting, Lindsay and or Rachel will send out a reminder. Here are the programs when they're budgeted. Here are the limits and information that we have currently. And then we could go through it. Obviously, if you need additional help, guidance, or anything, we're here and available to talk to you and help you out.
Thanks, Carlos. Yeah, and we'll be going over this in a little bit more detail at the November meeting for that informational aspect. Same, we're aligning the call for projects for the TA set-aside program with the STBG call for amendments. So we'll be doing that informational portion in November as well. Just if you guys want to take the time to think about what you might want to do with your projects, you can come back with questions and we'll have additional information available at that meeting as well.
Is that an application or a memo or what does
So,
that application look like?
I'm glad you asked. This is what we'll be needing, just so you guys are aware going forward of what we'll need for that call for amendments. We'll want the original application that was approved and an amendment request that just details what you want to change, whether that's those cost estimates, scope, whether you're totally editing a project out. And then anything that might be related to that termini change or scope, that might look like an updated map, updated design, and then any other supporting documentation, whatever that might look like for your project. And then if you have any other questions, of course, or if you're not sure what might fall under those supporting documentations, feel free to just reach out to me and I can answer your questions.
So if the amendment's not approved or not selected, then the entire project is canceled?
No, so it would just remain within the program as it is. Some of this is dependent on how many requests for amendments we receive and depending on how much funding, again, we want to put into that application. Ultimately, it is up to the board. You guys we as staff will score them and present them. They'll go through the same, more or less the same scoring process as they did when they were initially submitted. Like I said, some of these projects are, like they were submitted several years ago. And so we've updated some of the project selection since then. And we just want to make sure we're looking at them with fresh eyes and going through the project selection that the board has selected. And so with that, we'll be taking a new we'll be taking that scoring process and kind of just re-looking at the project, but it won't undo anything that was done before. We're just saying, hey, if it does seem competitive and we have a bunch of projects and we're not able to do amendments for all of the ones that are submitted, then the board might need to, make some decisions on that. But staff will certainly make recommendations, and so you guys have something to work from as well. Any other questions?
I feel like you're waiting for me to ask about.
Always, John. But yeah, to address that, we have received some pretty strict guidance from Iowa DOT that we are not selecting projects kind of with let's make it equal for everyone. It has to be competitive process, which means it has to be based off of a public, transparent scoring and selection system, which the board has previously put together. And so we've been using the process set up by the board to go through these scoring and selections. And again, this will all be presented to you. We'll go through exactly, okay, this is why it was scored this way. This is how it might be better. If there are questions about how, you can make your project more competitive. Again, like I said, I will send out, actually it's linked to the agenda. I know Charlie, you mentioned you were having trouble opening the links. But it's linked on the agenda on the website, the MAPA website, a page for the call for amendments, call for projects, TA, SCBG. They're both on the same page. And currently I have all the TA information on that page, including the matrix of scoring and weighting. I don't quite yet have the SCBG project scoring on there, but it'll be up before Friday. And so you'll have a chance to take a look at that just to see, hey, how do I make this score a little bit better? How can I make improvements to this project? So that might be a consideration as well, to make some intentional choices with project design as far as scoring. Any other questions? All right.
Need to vote on this?
I was just thinking about that. It technically is not an official call for amendments, but if we want to just go through and make sure we're checking all of our boxes and dotting our I's, crossing our T's sort of thing, we can go ahead and do that.
Okay. Do you have a motion for the technical?
Sure, Charlie. I'll do that.
But what's written on the board doesn't make sense.
I'm sorry?
Or technical
Oh.
is approving what policy board we haven't.
You can ignore that. That's a typo. That's supposed to be technical.
No, because the technical committee.
Oh, yeah. No.
Recommendation.
You're right.
So it should just say.
It is a recommendation. Yeah.
Policy.
Yeah, no, that is right.
I think it's just
Yes.
26 or 27?
27.
27 would be.
Yeah, the year.
27 is a typo.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All same sign. Motion carried. Now a motion from the policy committee.
So moved.
Have a motion. Do I have a
Sorry, who was
second?
that?
Richard.
Richard,
Susan was the second.
Lovely. All right.
you have a second?
Still have to vote.
Susan? I have a motion and a second. Susan seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Final long transportation plan.
All right, so I know this has been a long time coming. We've kind of gone back and forth and presented a bit on this. You guys have had, we've come to the county boards of supervisors for those of you that are on those boards. So you've heard a lot about this, but I'm just gonna give a really quick refresher. Again, this is our long-range transportation plan, so it's got that 20-year horizon. It's the Iowa DOT requirement for RPAs. It's similar to the MTP that we're doing on the MPO side, and so there's a lot of comparisons. There's a lot of lineup with what we're doing on the MPO side, but there are some differences as well. This one won't have a fiscally constrained project list, so that's one big difference that would be important to recognize. But otherwise, it's looking at those existing status and future needs of the transportation system through that project horizon, long-term, as well as any growth, decline related to demographic, economic, passenger, and other factors that might be related. And it's due, this round is due to Iowa DOT in November. So we wanted to go ahead and make sure we got this passed on. All right. And then just going over some of the biggest changes we've made. I've gone through this in a lot more details, but just kind of taking a step back, looking high level. Since the 2020 document, we have gone through a lot of SS4A projects. You guys have been familiar with that, especially on the county side. You have your safety action plans. So we've been working to incorporate those as well as other safety efforts. We've also looked at different system preservations. You might be familiar with Jim Borner. He's been doing a lot of work with some of our other planners to work on that pavement and bridge condition goals and making sure we're looking at appropriate, taking into account system maintenance and those types of concerns. We've also looked a lot in the last, with this plan, at multimodal access. So we've really been emphasizing, you might have heard me saying a lot about the TAP program recently. I've probably been talking about it a lot, but we're trying to make sure we're expanding these trail and sidewalk networks within our communities and making sure they're accessible for everyone, and just making a network of different connectivity so that it's not necessarily all about roadway and vehicles, and also putting that safety section. We wanted to make sure that was emphasized as well when it comes to multimodal access. And then again, we went through a recent Title VI plan update, so we included some information about that. And oh, that one's old. And accessibility. And then resilience and sustainability, that's a new section that we've been expanding a lot more on. So that's been looking at flood risk. Again, you guys are familiar maybe with the resilience improvement plan that Iowa did back in 2023, looking especially at the I-29 corridor. That's a huge flood risk within our region, and we're kind of right in the heart of it. So we wanted to make sure we were taking a look at what can we do to make sure that we can mitigate that and plan for that and design for that within our transportation network. So some of those were just some of the big things we went over within the plan. Public comment period ran from August 13th through the 7th. We received 3 comments. So this is some of the outreach that we did. We wrapped that up in August, and then I'll go through some of the comments. Have edited the comments themselves for length and brevity and content, and just to highlight. And then I did include our responses verbatim. So that's why those just look longer. Some of these comments were quite in depth, and so I wasn't able to include all of those on there. But we had 2 comments actually. The first one that they both addressed Highway 6 and the I-80 interchange. This one specifically was concerned about eastbound traffic. They had some ideas about what that should look like as far as future growth in the area and making sure there was accessibility, and we were planning for that growth and commercial development. These are projects that typically would fall under Iowa DOT, Pottawattamie County. So they're not obviously something that MAPA necessarily is going to be directly involved with. And so we'll be passing on these specific comments. Yes.
I got a email from Court yesterday
Yes.
from a comment similar to that.
Yeah, we got, so on the MPO side, we got identical comments almost.
So I responded back to that person,
Mhm.
letting them know that we have a signalization project going on. It'll be completed by the end of the month, which should help with their concerns.
Yeah, that's great to know.
And then we also stated that we don't have any future plans east of that interchange as well.
That's perfect. All right, I can follow up with some of these individuals. We have another one, which here I'll skip through to the third one and then come back to the second one. It's a little bit different. That was super similar. They were talking a lot about specifically that West Fair area. That's come up a lot recently. Just a lot of event related congestion over in that area, concerts, festivals, whatever that looks like. Residents and locals have expressed multiple concerns. This isn't the first time we're hearing of it in this plan public comment either. So yeah, that's good to hear, Scott. Thank you.
And we looked at that too, because it's been brought up before, but, I mean, adding lanes to that area,
Mhm. Yeah.
particularly turn lanes. I mean, for example, if you're heading eastbound and you're wanting to go to the concert, you still have to wait for westbound traffic to clear or have some type of control, whether it's a police officer, whatever, to turn in there anyway. It's challenging, I'll just say that, because even if you add the additional lanes, it's not always gonna fix the problem.
Yeah, for sure. No. And again, these are just comments from the public. I wanted to make sure I included what their suggestions were that may or may not be best practice or best engineering choices or even necessarily the safest option. But I did want to include what they were, the public was recommending or suggesting. Yeah. All right, I'll hop back to the second one. This one was a little bit different. We actually, this was from a local community leader who is asking about rural transportation gaps, specifically in relation to light rail and expanded public transit. This was kind of really interesting because it's actually very challenging within this region to consider that, especially considering even in the metro area, we kind of struggle with this idea of light rail and public transit. So we did let them know that, hey, we would love to do this, but that's probably not feasible within this region just because density and funding concerns. But we wanted to make sure that was acknowledged and that is something, especially for a local community leader, that is on their minds, especially when we take into account the growing population of seniors and other residents that maybe have long commutes to those essential services, jobs, schools, hospitals, groceries, whatever that looks like, just for daily life. And so we want to make sure we're at least responding appropriately and taking that into consideration as much as possible. All right. Any questions about the public comments or other LRTP questions? All right. So this is our final LRTP presentation. So we'll be sending the final one off to Iowa DOT here shortly, once we've kind of made just a couple of minor edits and included any of those final comments. All right. Charlie.
Okay. Need motion from the technical committee. Moved. Motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Same sign. Do I have a motion from the policy committee?
So moved.
Have a motion, do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Any public comment?
Hearing none.
Any additional business?
So Mava has a couple of updates. First off, I wanted to make sure we mentioned, if you guys have been around the last year, we've been trying to make sure that we're kind of going through all the different funding programs and make sure you guys are aware of the options so that if it's eligible or of interest, you guys can apply. So this is one that's actually closing here within the next month or so. We've got HSIP local through Iowa DOT. Again, this is a really good program. We wanted to make sure we highlighted it. Again, cities, counties, you guys are eligible. It just has to be consistent with that strategic highway safety plan. So that's Iowa's plan. Iowa's plan. And so that'll be available on the website as well. Not MAPA's website, just to be clear.
I could give you an example of a project in the area that John and I actually worked together on.
Oh, that'd be perfect.
So if you're familiar with the Highway 6 corridor, there used to be a Y at the trainer turnoff, L55, right, John? And so there was a accident history and there was a fatal accident there. Somebody pulled out from another vehicle. So it scored high enough, we were able to get highway safety improvement program funds. And so we worked with the county, Pot County, lowering the grade on L55 and then adding turn lanes to US 6 and making it safer and basically removing the Y interchange and making the T interchange. So that was one of the projects that we were able to use that funding for.
Yeah, that sounds like a great project.
Hey, Scott.
Go
Oh.
ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Scott, it looks like a lot of this stuff is kind of or the common projects listed on the Iowa side are mainly signage and striping modifications, so nothing with a lot of engineering. Has the state looked into doing programmatic enhancements for two-stage crossings, median islands, roundabouts within the region or area that you know of? Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but
No, you're fine. So with this program, there's a kind of a portion of the application process where it looks at benefit cost ratio and also looks at crash reduction, that type of thing. So those would be eligible projects if they score high enough.
Did the 99 county plans, or not 99, 97, whatever the number is, the county safety plans, did they include some of the HSIP pre-vetting on some of the projects they listed as top 10 per county?
I think they did, yes.
Oh, okay. So like anyone in the room, all our county engineers, if you need applications, you might be able to check those out.
Yep.
Yes, yeah. So that's one of the things we've been especially wanting to highlight is that safety aspect. We're going to start adding safety updates to the end of each of our RPA meetings. Each of the counties has that safety action plan. We want to make sure we're going and we're using the momentum that we have from the completion of those plans to make sure those projects are getting into the pipeline and getting completed so that we can improve the safety of our transportation network. So that'll be part of that. It'll be answering any questions you guys have, trying to look at different funding options, and hearing any updates you guys have about projects that you do currently have in the pipeline or are considering. So just a heads up. So going. Again, on the safety side, so you guys might remember MAPPA's got our RPA-13 and 18 project going. We wrapped up our survey and our in-person engagements. So that's all completed, which was very exciting. We got a lot of really good responses. We went to one event in each city, which I'll get to in a second. But we were able to, between that and just social media outreach and whatever, we were able to get over 100 survey responses and almost the same map markers. And so our consultant will be taking those, and they're currently working on that data analysis. And with that, we've got a data dashboard available on the Safe Streets website, which documents the crashes that have occurred within these 7 communities. Again, we got 3 communities within RPA-18, Glenwood, Harlan, and Missouri Valley, and then 4 in RPA-13. And so it's looking specifically at those communities and the crashes that have occurred in those areas. Because these are smaller communities, and we're working with just smaller amounts of crash sample size, essentially. We're doing it a little differently than if you were paying attention to the way we were doing it on the MPO side. We had a ton of data samples to work with. So because of that, we're making some adjustments to how we're doing the crash data analysis. Part of that is looking at a larger threshold year. So we're looking at 10 years instead of 5. We're also taking into account minor injuries as well as just personal damage injuries, or is that right? PDO.
So usually when we do this kind of analysis, we mostly just look at fatal and serious injury crashes because we want to be able to prioritize towards the crashes with biggest impact. But because we don't actually, it's a good thing. We don't have a lot of those data points across these communities. So we're expanding that data pool to include minor injury crashes as well. I'm not sure if we're including property damage. I think we're just branching it out to minor injuries at this time. But yeah, it just kind of helps us pull some trends out a bit easier.
I know the property damage were included in the analysis on some level. It may not be at the same level as those minor injuries, but yeah, for sure. So we've got that if you guys are interested in checking that out. Again, a lot of that data is pretty much pulled from ICAT, and our consultants are going through that analysis process currently. So with that, and then I'll just go through a quick plug here, we've got our high risk network stag meeting. So that's the second stag meeting. For those of you that were able to make it to the first, we did just kind of a project intro and looking at what we were going to be planning to do over the next year or so. So this next meeting, which is on October 21st, is going to be looking at that high risk network. That high risk network is the analysis tool that is going to be a result of the crash data analysis. Typically, it's more of a high injury network, looking at what injuries have occurred on the transportation network because of crashes and serious injuries and fatalities. But because of that sample size that we were talking about earlier, we're looking at more of that risk factor, which is kind of where the minor injuries and the PDO crashes come into play, because those could have been more serious in different circumstances. Maybe someone was looking at their phone and then they put it down and that saved them from a worse crash or something. Whatever that might look like, it might have been, those crashes might have looked very differently had just one factor been slightly different. So we wanted to make sure we're taking that into account and developing that high risk network, looking at where those crashes and fatalities are occurring, but also where they are high risk of occurring in the future. So please, we would love to have you guys be involved in that. We'll be going through that high risk network, making any edits and suggestions to that tool with our consultants available at that meeting. So we would love to have you, especially you engineers. I think that would be of real interest to you guys because this tool will become available to you, and that might be beneficial to you, the work you have in the region.
We're gonna go through the summary of all of the outreach that we've done as well and provide that to the group. And so this meeting is a virtual only meeting. It's, I think, 10:30 to like noon on Tuesday, the 21st. So you should have that invite on your calendars already. If you don't and would like to attend, please make sure to reach out to myself or Rachel and we'll make sure you get at it. We very, very, very much look forward to seeing you guys at that.
Yeah, it's been a really great project so far. We've been able to engage a lot of the local people. People are really interested in this in the community, especially when it comes to a lot of even the non-motorized issues. One of the things that we came up with on that outreach portion was a lot of people were concerned about the use of scooters, four-wheelers, and golf carts on local roads, especially when you're talking about younger people, minors, and not wearing any safety gear. So that's been a huge concern from the community members, but like Lindsay was mentioning, we'll be compiling a lot of that outreach and the comments that we received and presenting them at that next stag meeting. And then those next two stag meetings, so there's only 4 total. The next one will be in January. Once we get back from the holidays, we'll be going over countermeasures and projects, and then the final draft plan will be in April. So it's a pretty short project. We've been able to do some really good work here. So really excited about how that's going to turn out. And then if you guys have been watching the MAPPA calendar at all, you might remember that today is our Council of Officials annual meeting. So that'll be out in Fort Calhoun actually this evening. If any of you were registered or interested in attending there's some more information here on the slides, or you can just ask me afterward. Other than that, we've got our other calendar updates. We'll be having our November meeting. And then we won't be having another meeting until February unless there's some unforeseen, currently at the moment, need to have one. So we'll have a nice holiday break and then we'll come back in February in time to look over the applications that have been received from that call for projects. So just as a reminder, make sure you come to that November meeting because we'll be talking over more application material and details and talking through technical assistance and working through just project questions at that meeting.
Should that say 5:30 tonight, not 5? My invite says 5:30.
I think it's the actual, I have 2 on my calendar. One says 5 and one says 5:30. So I think I just played it safe.
I think it does begin at 5.
Yeah, I think you're right.
To be on Rachel is as staff, they
Yeah,
want us there a bit
that's
earlier,
the
but
point.
the event starts at 5:30.
Okay.
It's happy hour, Angie.
Exactly.
Yeah, just come say hi, you know, we'll be there. But yeah, love to have you over in Fort Calhoun tonight if you're able to make it. There'll be some good presentations for that. Other than that, if there are any other safety updates from our members. Otherwise, I'll let you guys think about that and we can take that off a little bit more flying.
No additional business. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's motion carried.
Out there now.
Thank you, everybody.